Hey everyone, welcome back to another live session. As always, grateful to be here. Grateful for you, the community, and whether that community is watching me right now or watching me on replay. I know a lot of these lives get watched on replay. Just grateful for the audience and grateful for the time. So thank you so much for being here. So as we dive in, let's always do the step that we do when I produce a Monday video, which is going backwards before we dive into the live session. And so what I wanted to do with yesterday's video is really complete a 3-video series on really diving deep into our behavioral answers. If you go back into my YouTube channel and you watch those 3 videos on how to create great behavioral answers, there is no question, no doubt, 100% guaranteed you will deliver better answers in your job interviews, specifically when answering behavioral questions. So yesterday I kind of went backwards. I went results, I went actions, and then yesterday I covered the situation and task. And really, I'll go super high level on that video. But when you think about the situation and task, hi Liz, thanks for being here. When you talk about the situation and task, so much of the confusion when we introduce the context of our behavioral answers is it's your world, not mine. And so I get confused very easily on the details, on the information, because I'm not in your world. So much of this is about simplification at that stage. We start with credibility. Why? Cognitive psychology. Credibility is really powerful. Your role in company, your challenge area, a couple sentences, brief and specific. And then we end with that last sentence, what we were specifically tasked with, and the timeline. Why the timeline? The timeline creates shape. It gives it the context that is really needed. And numbers, time, it's the universal language. So it's going to be really powerful and impactful. So if you have not had a chance to check out that video, I strongly encourage you to watch it. Again, those concepts that I put together in those 3 behavioral videos, follow the steps and you will be shocked at how you deliver much stronger and better behavioral answers. So let's just take a moment, and as you're coming into this live stream, let me know you can hear me okay. Always give me those warm and fuzzies where you're visiting from. And today's topic area will be, how long should my interview answers be? And this is a common question, and the feedback is very, very broad and different based on who's coaching. And obviously I have my own insights and own opinions, so we'll talk a little bit about that. And as always, it's a general Q&A. I am here to help. So your questions, your comments, information, data, let's knowledge share. And Liz, maybe you and I can talk a little bit, or we can knowledge share a little bit with what OpenAI is doing to compete with LinkedIn. That's just one interesting topic that we can tackle in today's conversation. As always with these live sessions, I'll go as long as the audience wants to participate. So we usually hit about an hour, but it's really up to the audience, and I'll chat as long as we want to chat. And when the audience is slower, I'll drag it out a little bit, and I hope that's okay. If this is your first time here, my name is Jeff H. Sipe. My business is practiceinterviews.com, and I have 3 primary services. The number 1 service you're seeing down there, app.practiceinterviews.com. Why is that the number 1 service? Because it's the most accessible. It's the cheapest, and it sounds like me, and you get me and a tool for a very cheap cost. So try it out for free. You have nothing to risk. We are potentially thinking about changing the free model, so it's just something to note. Get it for free while you can. Still doing one-on-one coaching, so that's interview coaching, negotiation coaching, and career strategy sessions. And I also have packages. And it's been almost it's crazy. It's been almost a year now, which I can't believe, since I revamped the interview mastery course. So I definitely built AI back into that entire course to really make it much more better and relevant for today's audience, and I reduced the price as well. I go live 9 a.m. Pacific time every Tuesday, and I do new original long form content every Monday. I will be completely off next week. No new video, no new live, and I'll highlight that a few times. I'm going to take off next week. So let's dive in. Let's have some fun. Looks like we have a small audience to start, so please, your engagement will help us keep it going. And again, in our downtime, we'll talk a little bit about interview length and specifically interview answer length. Hi, Liz, my rock, always here to support me. I appreciate you. Good to see you as well. I will take a look, have made those mistakes, too much detail. I'm a teacher at heart and used to over-explain when I got excited or nervous. Yeah, focused practice was the cure. So what Liz is referencing is behavioral answers. And a lot of times, and when I say a lot of times, I'm shocked when I do a one-on-one session and one of my clients isn't long-winded in their situation and task. And the biggest area to work on is the challenge area. We can almost always define that challenge in 2 to 3 sentences. And hey, as you're building out your interview answers, build out the challenge in 5 sentences or 10 sentences, and then say, okay, what's really valuable and critical for my audience to know before I outline my task and timeline and then dive into my actions. So I can't emphasize this enough. If the situation and task of your behavioral answer is too long, your audience is gone. And the vast majority of situation and tasks that I hear are about 90 seconds. I want them to be about 30 to 40 seconds. And again, we can break down interview answers into the smaller components. And so we can focus in on this now. But in the situation and task, you just have to be brief and specific. And that balance, that delicate dance is so difficult. And then the last piece that I'll always advise you, when we warm into conversations with people, we really need to speak at the 5th grade level. So, for example, I'll bring this up because it's interesting. So, I work in a pretty small office in San Diego, and I finally met somebody who works in one of the offices, and they were talking about data storage, specifically in how you handle data storage in the cloud space. Well, speaking at a really common language, that's where you need to start, because you don't know that I know a lot about cloud and data management and storage. So you start with really simplistic, basic terms, and then you can expand and broaden as you know your audience knows what you're talking about. Little side tangent. So thanks for being here. I'm glad you made it this week. So as you're coming into the live stream, again, we're going to be really slow if people don't say hello at least and start throwing out questions and comments. And it's my job as the host to prompt and poke just a little bit. So you're here. I know we got people on here. So please engage as much as you want to. Of course, it's up to you. And obviously confidentiality is number one. We want to protect your privacy if you don't want to engage. So it's pretty early to be under 10 minutes and be out of questions, but we'll work through it. Okay, here's one. And then we'll, again, in our downtime, we'll continue to talk about how long should my answers be. Hey, Jeff, question about the CFAS method. What are the top 5 frameworks to use? I'm always at a loss with which one to use out of many. Okay, great. So let's just provide a little bit of context for the audience. If you're not familiar with CFAS, CFAS is the method we use for hypothetical questions. How would you, what would you, I want you to imagine. Those are all hypothetical questions where we need to problem solve, not provide an example. And CFAS is clarify, framework, assumption, solution. When we create a framework, our framework is our outline. It's just telling our interviewer, hey, I know my stuff, and here are the critical items we want to focus in on. So when picking a framework, what we're really trying to do is we're trying to align it to the core function of the question. Right? So what do I mean by that? So is the core function of the question to outline a strategy? Is it to outline a process? Is it to outline how we handle a client relationship? Is it to outline optimization? And so that's the core function that I'm looking for in a framework. It's not this framework works best for this specific answer. It's this framework works best because the question is about communication or process or strategy. So This is the biggest part with hypothetical questions. When we get the hypothetical question, breathe, Sue. I think fake interviewer is always Sue. Sue, I'm going to take 1 minute to gather my thoughts. I don't know the percentage of people who are taking their time when they answer hypothetical questions, but I have to imagine, based on my client experience, it's probably less than 10%. And that time is so critical because that's what's going to help you decide what framework to use. You say, okay, it's a communications based framework. So I definitely want to understand some of the core things I need to understand in communication, like people's goals and the historical data. But I might also want to be thinking about psychological safety, positive intent, overall, like communication strategies, whether that's meetings or weekly meetings or daily stand-ups or whatever it might be. And just by connecting there, we can have way more success. And I do get this question quite a bit, like, what framework should I use? It's up to you. I would definitely focus on different concepts than other people. My default mode is pretty data-driven, really analytical. So you're basically never going to get me to introduce a framework where I'm not bringing in some sort of data. And then I don't do anything without understanding the goals and objectives, right? So like goals and objectives and data, I don't care what the question is. I'm almost always going to start with those pieces. It's not surprising that I've built frameworks that start with those items quite often, but so much of the framework is personal connection too. I can spend a lot of time talking about those items, whereas if we got into requirements, for example, I'm not like great with requirements. I'm better at uncovering items and issues through conversation. And so again, it's an interesting path. I know I'm getting long-winded. I'm trying to extend intentionally, but I hope that helps. The answer is there's no one right framework. Just lean into the concepts you know the best, and that's where success lies. Daphne, thanks for being here as always. Hope it's nice in Miami right now. Missed last week's discussion about taking a voluntary severance, but I did take a severance a few months ago, and I'm still looking for work. The severance was very good, about 5 months pay in total. Okay, thank you. I don't regret doing it, but the job market is tighter than I've experienced, and it might not be worth it for a lot of people to take a severance versus staying within the company. Yeah, let's flash back to last week. So much of taking that severance package is about the long-term viability in your career space. What do your connections look like? What does your network look like? What's your plan? So before taking a voluntary package, start to build that plan beforehand, like really warm up your network and say, ooh, am I going to have these other opportunities, or is it going to take longer? Now, 5 months of pay, that's nice, but those 5 months fly by, right? And so obviously, as you're going through this, networking, go to networking events, be reaching out to people on LinkedIn, people you know, people you don't know, just push that warm stuff. The application world, yeah, it occasionally, the application piece will work, but it's got to be really timely. It's got to be the ideal role. Otherwise, just like blindly sending out a lot of applications, as we know, doesn't really work. And I'll be partnering with a company that helps automate applications. I'm not going to get into that now, but I'll talk through it later, where it's like that's one of the tools I would use, because you're not wasting all your time applying. You're having somebody else do it for you. Okay, you started looking at SWOT. Okay, so we're talking about using SWOT as a framework. I don't love SWOT as a framework. I don't love it as a framework just in the sense that it's just so generic, and doesn't really tie into your expertise. The framework should lean into your skills. Why? Because the framework is an outline, so we're going to expand upon those concepts. So I always want to be highlighting in the framework concepts that I'm really good at talking about. I don't want to talk about stuff I'm not good at talking about. And sometimes, like for me, I can't potentially see all the weaknesses, right? I'm like always looking at the the glasses half full, right? So like sometimes that could be a challenge area for me. So I don't want to use the SWOT framework because I don't really like talking about the weaknesses piece. Obviously something we need to cover anyway, but the more classic frameworks, I would say adapt them a little bit. So take these great frameworks that have been created and make them your own. And that's the beauty. We can make frameworks whatever we want them to be. And this is where interviews are weird. I try to talk to my clients about this all the time. They're not logical, right? And so like answering a hypothetical question using the CFAS method, we would never speak that way in the real world. But the interviews, they're not the real world. So we have to clarify. We have to present our outlines so they feel like we're organized. We have to make assumptions to bring some visual shape. And then obviously we need to dive in and solve. But the framework allows us to say like, hey, I know all my things. I'm just going to start by focusing in on this one thing. And I think most people who have used it and used it for hypothetical questions see that at least having a process and structure and following that structure is really helpful. Yesterday, you were invited to a professional conference on the West Coast. Okay, amazing. And obviously, with any invite, like you got to think about the costs associated with that invite and whether it makes sense for you to do it. But obviously, I recommend the West Coast for anything. The other thing I know I've talked about this a million times, but just so much of these, any like networking event or these conferences, again, I'm a Dale Carnegie guy. Like I think the foundational how to win friends and influence people, like take interest in others. The most interesting people are the most interested. I will live and die by that quote. I mean, it's just, we have to take interest in others. And sometimes going past like a conference like Liz is going to with these networking events, make it all about them. After that event, they will remember you more than anybody else. And you will be the person they are most likely to help. And that's not deception. It's not meant to be devious. You are actually going to these networking events and trying to help people. And so, I think, I have my phone in my pocket, so I can show it. Like I have a barcode on my phone. That's my LinkedIn profile. So I went to an event last Monday, and that's what I would do. I just hand people my phone, I put up my phone, and they could take a picture and they could connect with me on LinkedIn, and then I could give them LinkedIn advice. We could look at their profile, etc. But just make sure it's even at a conference list that it's a giving model. Thanks for videos. They've been a huge help as I prep for my Google Cloud. Okay. The program manager role, interview this Thursday. With guidance feeling broad, what should I focus in on in these next 2 days? Well, I'm going to do it. It's free. I mean, for the next 2 days, you have every single bell and whistle for free here. So anybody who's not using this for free, like, I don't know what else to say. I mean, use this for free. It sounds like me. I've built it that way. I spent a lot of time, a lot of money building it that way. So, that is my number one suggestion. What we're really looking for, I really, when I work with clients, I look at 3 things. Structure. Are you following a very specific structure for your common question answers, for your behavioral answers, and for your hypothetical answers? If you're not following a structure, I'll know it instantly because you'll get extremely repetitive. It will be the next piece, unorganized. So I look for structure. I look for organization, which means you're staying organized within that structure. And then the last is detail. Are the details all over the place? Are they really clean and clear? And so I know I'm going all over the place. One of the biggest things I want you to think about and prepare for is on the behavioral side. Tell me about a time when, give me an example of, that in your actions, you are telling them what you did, indent, how. What did you do next? Indent, how. What needs to be supported by how? And how is really the missing piece of the puzzle. How is what visually connects them, gets you to be likable, memorable. And then same on the hypothetical side. If we're talking about goals and objectives, we can't just say, meet with the team, come up with the requirements. It's like, we need to meet with the team. Specifically with software engineers, we're going to cover A, B, and C. And then with product managers, we're going to cover D, E, and F. That level of depth starts to create the visual of you in the room, you working through the challenges with them. So really, really important. The biggest piece of advice, more is more. And so you just have to get after it for these next 2 days. Just really prep, and push. And then a half an hour before the interview, get to that meditative state, breathe. Do you hear what just happened in my voice? That was one breath. That was the power of one breath, calming me down, bringing me down a little bit. Our breath is like one of the missing pieces of the puzzle when it comes to job interviews. If we breathe, it calms down our nervous system. We get slower. We sound more clear. So just something I recommend. Please throw any other questions at me. Oops. Question was, oh, it's a big trip and I would need to cover travel, but it would be great with folks, my faves. Would you go or join online? I'm leaning to go, by the way. Haven't seen this bunch for ages. Oh yeah, like it's kind of hard. It's kind of funny, right? Because it's almost contradictory for me to tell you to go, even though I spend 99.9% of my time hiding behind this camera, right? But no, I mean, I definitely recommend that you go. And I always find that those are a good investment. And sometimes that investment takes time, right? So like I went to the NACE conference in Philadelphia in early June this year. And that's for colleges. And I was trying to sell my app to colleges. And I actually haven't had a sale from that. But I did meet a lot of fantastic people, built a lot of good relationships, and I'm still trying to nurture some of those relationships. So it's taking a little bit of time. I think the flight, the hotel, the cost, it was probably a few $1,000s, right? And so to not get a return on investment from that yet, but it was just so valuable to be with people, talk to people. It was so engaging, exciting. And there is a real power in that. And then there could just be like a good mental power to get you like more excited. So I recommend that you go. Okay. Oh, the barcode. Yeah. So again, I just flashed this, but I'll flash it again. I usually don't have my phone on me because it's usually a brick during the day. But if you see that, it's just a barcode on my phone. All you do is you just go to LinkedIn on mobile and you take a screenshot of, you can get that barcode on mobile. And you just take a screenshot of it and you just put it as your background on your iOS or Android device. And it's just a great way. Like there's no path to resistance, and it's LinkedIn and not like my website, because it's LinkedIn is a way to actually connect with somebody. If I just give them my website, I don't know what the action is going to be. So I love that as a default, and you're removing all barriers when you do something like that. So this barcode sits on my phone, and yeah, there's some weeks where it won't be used for weeks, and then there's other days where I'll use it multiple times in a day. What kind of questions should we prepare for in a meta interview loop? Meta's definitely going to lean behavioral. Okay. And so will they ask hypothetical questions? Yeah, because companies just naturally do it. They don't really like say, hey, like we're a hypothetical question company, but they ask them, like, how would you do X? And so, of course, that's when you're going to want to use CFAS. But Meta definitely leans behavioral, and they lean fit. And so, not only myself, because I did a full loop at Meta while I was at Google, but just what I hear from my clients, Meta is one of my top 3 that I coach for. And just the feedback is heavily behavioral. But fit, just like, I can't explain it, but they just look for fit a little bit more than any other company I know. And so I would double down on your behavioral answers and just obviously be ready for the hypothetical side as well. Do you think people fail in interviews because they don't answer the basic requirements of the question, or because the examples just aren't impressive enough to the hiring manager? Well, so much of interview answers is engagement, right? And again, if you're just telling me all the what's, it's like I did what, I did what, I did what, I did what, and how I did what was boom, boom, and boom. It's the how that engages us and intrigues us. And I could talk about the how forever. This isn't Jeff. This is not my gut feel. This is cognitive psychology. We are much more invested in the how. And so it's the default. And I think that this is where we're going to pivot here probably in a moment to talking about how long interview answers should be. But like, some of my biggest competitors, really big YouTubers, they say like no answer should be over a minute. And yeah, people's attention span is terrible. But if you checked in with me at 1 minute of every interview answer, my level of frustration would get very high very quickly. I'd be like, just answer the question. Like, stop checking in with me. You don't need to validate every single minute that I'm listening. I'm listening. It's almost, it just feels really negative. And so again, the biggest thing is depth, and depth through how, and how on the behavioral side is the what did you do supported by how you did it. And then on the hypothetical side, what would you do supported by how you would do it. I hope that helps. Notice that there are more features in the pro membership than the free trial. I can create one. Sure. Why don't we do this? I will create a promo code after this live session. So anybody watching this live session and you want a promo code off the pro membership, I'll do that. They should look pretty similar. The pro membership and free trial should be pretty much the same. If you're seeing the free trial on the landing page, that's after 7 days. But the first 7 days, you basically get everything. But either way, I'll throw a promo code in there after. So look for that right after we end the live session. Happy to do that. You always get a pit in your stomach before interviews. So how do we alleviate that? Well, you alleviate that pit in your stomach with more practice, whether that's with an app, a person, whatever. It doesn't have to be me, but like just so much practice that you feel so confident. And then again, your breath. How are you managing the stress and anxiety? A little stress and anxiety is good. It means that you have a stake in the game. You're interested. And people view stress as stress always has a negative connotation, but stress can be really good. We put stress on ourselves all the time in a positive way, right? If you go and exercise, you're putting stress on the body. That's positive, right? And so your breath, again, so deep breathing, square breathing, pulse breathing, like whatever you want to do, work on the breathing component. And then the other piece is mindset. I belong here, I should be here, and I am going to crush this interview. So I'll work with clients and they'll say, you know, Jeff, if I don't get the job, and I'll say, well, we need to remove that when you get the job. Because if we go in with the mindset that we might not get it, we won't get it. And it is really important. And this is not fake news, right? Like manifesting is powerful, and we need to put out that positive intent and positive energy, right? So it's obviously very, very easy for me to say because I don't plan on ever being in a job interview ever again. So it's easy for me to say, okay, well, you shouldn't have nerves because it's something I know I don't have to face, but I got to face my own challenges, of course. So That was long-winded. I hope it helps. Jeff, you have a Meta recruiter screening tomorrow for a project controls lead. What are your suggestions for preparing? So recruiter screens, like, I just like recruiters that really come after candidates. I don't get it unless the hiring manager has directed that way, meaning like they're really struggling to fill the role and like all the candidates are falling down on A, B, and C skills. Well, here's the good news. Either you have those or you don't. Recruiter screens should be all about showing up on time, being energetic, showing strong communications, and having reasons for having a good answer to tell me about yourself or why Meta and like these simple questions. But you shouldn't be answering in-depth behavioral questions or hypothetical questions. They just don't have the time for it, and they're not interview experts. So I wouldn't overstress or over prepare for it, definitely, and just be ready to answer questions around the job requirements more than anything else. But it should not follow the same structure that I would lead and guide you to have during a real interview. It's not a real interview, it's a screening. Obviously, take it seriously, be on time, be gracious, be kind, but there's not a lot of prep that you can do. Thank you. You're going to need it for more than 7 days. Okay, good. Yeah, I will try to put that in my brain now. So for anybody here, I'll be throwing out a promo code for the app right after. I'll go ahead and create something in Stripe and have that off to everybody who's watching and anybody who wants to watch it in the future. I'll probably put some expiration date on it though, just because I need to. Hey, Jeff, for senior PM roles, what are they really looking for if you come from engineering background? I'm an engineer and looking to transition. Okay, so I just want to double confirm that when we say senior PM roles, we're talking about product manager. It's just the abbreviation thing. Like all companies kind of handle it differently, but the other thing that I would question, and please, like while I'm talking, follow up with me, but just please confirm we're talking about a senior product manager role. And then if you're looking to transition, and let's see, did you come in? Senior product manager. And so the second thing is if you're looking to come in and transition to a senior product manager role, that doesn't really make sense to me. Now, I'm not saying that that's not what you have in front of you, but if you don't have experience in product, I'm not sure how you would go from engineering to a senior role. You'd go from engineering to a more of a flat level role. Product managers and engineering, it's very different. Product is heavily ideation. And here's the good news. Probably your engineering background and engineering mindset will lean well for a product manager because product managers struggle to go from ideation to execution. Maybe not in reality, but in the job interviews, they really struggle with that. So what do I mean? I'll ask a product manager like a very product-based question, like make a better gas station or something that's like really product-based and pushes their product mindset. And it's all just ideas. Well, those ideas don't have any value if you can't execute on them. So as you're thinking about going into product manager interviews, how do you ideate and execute on those ideas? Here's the other piece. I don't believe I've ever coached a product manager that didn't lean long in their answers. Almost every product manager, they go on and on because it's the ideation. And by the way, that's fun because product managers have this whole different mind than I have. And so they can just continue to come up with these fantastic ideas. But again, ideas are okay, but execution is critical. So if you can't take an idea and execute on it, it doesn't have any value. And so just something to keep in mind, really dive into execution. So we are 34 minutes in and out of questions. Our audience is growing. So as you're coming in here, any and all questions are welcome. We do a general Q&A. So questions, comments, feedback, anything, it's all welcome here. And then We're going to talk a little bit about how long should my interview answers be here in a moment. You're welcome. I hope that helps. How many referrals can a Google employee give to others at the same time? Wondering if they're limited to one at a time. I don't know the answer to that question. It never was limited in the past. I haven't heard about limitations. But maybe it could be like, if we're thinking about just overall, maybe it could be like a few in a month. But I don't think they have limits. But I don't know. I actually don't know the answer to that question. What do you think of the new LinkedIn challenge? All right, Liz, tell us more. I have no idea what that is. So yeah, it's funny. It's like, I want to be the LinkedIn expert. I think I have a lot of LinkedIn expertise, but there's always, again, there's always going to be this stuff that I just don't know. And hopefully people are transparent when they don't know something. So Liz, why don't you tell us more? Again, for the audience, any questions as things are coming up, let's dive in. I'm going to take maybe 2 or 3 minutes. Let's talk about how long interview answers should be, because the data is crazy all over the place. And it's really challenging to unpack the why. Why should answers be a certain length? So let's unpack that question right now. How long should my interview answers be? Let's focus in 3 specific areas. 1, common questions. 1 minute or less. Common questions. Tell me about yourself. Why the company? Why should we hire you? If you're going over a minute, you are ruining your interviewer's agenda. Interviewers come in with a massive agenda. These are warm-up, they're fluffy questions. They do want to hear a good answer. But if we go on and on, it's going to deter from our success. So common questions, 1 minute or less. Really focus in on that rule of 3, connectivity, right? With the role, you're really thinking about the rule of 3, highlighting 3 items, and then your timing is that 1 minute. So I love the CTT method for common questions. Behavioral questions, 3 to 4 minutes. And here's the very, very specific breakdown of that. Your situation and task, or if we're just going to call it context, 30 to 40 seconds. Then your actions, 2 to 3 minutes. Yes, that long. If you're telling your audience what you did, supported by how you did it, yes, we can definitely get to that level of depth. Then our results, 30 seconds or less. Obviously, if you want to add in learnings or a follow-up question, learnings 15 seconds or less, and follow-up questions 15 seconds or less. So if you're going to bring in those components, you are going to want to streamline your actions a little bit. And then lastly, with hypothetical questions, this is the big unknown. If there is no interruption, no engagement, probably around 4 minutes, maybe 4 to 5 minutes with no engagement. So what's the breakdown there? Your clarifying questions are probably going to take about a minute. If there's some back and forth, that's where it can get a little bit longer. Your framework should be laser fast, just concept, 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 concept. So think 30 seconds or less on the framework. Same with assumptions. If we keep adding more and more and more assumptions, it's going to take too long. Think 30 seconds on the assumptions, and then up to 2 minutes per solution. So really that's 4 minutes, right? 1 minute, 30 seconds, 2 minutes. But then we have the transition statements. And that's where we kind of say in that 4 to 5 minute range for a hypothetical question. Then that's with one solution. You get to the end of that first solution. Sue, we really tackled the goals and objectives and historical data. I believe the next great step we should be taking is really diving into how we're building and executing on that plan with stakeholders. Is that a good next step for us? So if your interviewer, Sue, wants you to keep going, you might have multiple solutions, and that hypothetical answer could easily hit 10 minutes plus with good engagement, but it's going to require engagement and an interest in seeing you to keep going. So to quickly recap, common questions, tell me about yourself, why should we hire you, 1 minute. Behavioral questions, tell me about a time when, give me an example of, 3 to 4 minutes. And then hypothetical questions, how would you, what would you, I want you to imagine, 4 to 5 minutes with no engagement. Hey, Jeff, I got laid off during COVID, but have legitimately freelanced since then. I still think I lose opportunity all the times away from being in-house. How can I overcome this? Well, one of the things I like to do is I like to create, if you haven't done this, and maybe you have, I like to create a little bit of a shell for freelance work. So it could be like, I'm just going to make it really basic. XYZ Corp. And then under XYZ Corp, it's like ABC Corp for these dates, these responsibilities. So you bucket all the freelance work under one larger umbrella, right? And that can really help to say, okay, they were all like product freelance jobs or program manager freelance jobs or marketing jobs or whatever they were. And you could say marketing consultant, and then you have all the freelance opportunities posted under there. So it looks like 5 continuous years of employment. And then if they ask, you say, yeah, during COVID, I just wanted to stay super flexible. And now I'm feeling as though it's a great time to pivot back, be in the office, really build and foster something that I can have a strong connection to. So you can really sell that. But that's one way I like when we have like all these random jobs, bucket them under one umbrella, and that can look like a little bit more continuity. Let me know if that makes sense. Let me know if you have any questions. Hey, Jeff, I concluded my on-site for SWE 2 early careers, and I was asked for some additional info for internal review. Does every candidate go to internal review automatically? No. Anytime we're being asked for additional information, I wouldn't ask you for more info if I wasn't interested. That's a waste of my time, right? So this is a good piece of data. So obviously, whenever they ask you for anything additional, like get it to them ASAP, as quickly as you possibly can. And no, it's always a good sign. Whenever they want more, it's good. Like even if they want to redo an interview or anything, it's all like positive signs that they like you. So definitely double down and get them anything they want, and it is a good sign. And I just wish that for all these roles that recruiters, it's almost like it's not good onboarding. It's like every recruiter needs to have a way better communications training system in place. And I'd love to build it, but I don't have the time. But just how do you communicate information? Good news. We want to collect some additional information from you because we're feeling really good about your results. Just that little warm and fuzzy would change everything. But it's just unfortunate that the communication skills are not where they need to be. And it can cause a little bit of stress and anxiety for candidates. And I'm being kind by saying a little bit. It's obviously a lot, and it's a lot pretty often. Okay. We are 43 minutes in, so it's been a little bit of a slow session. It's kind of interesting, and anybody can come in and comment. My YouTube channel's getting slow, and I can't really speak to the reasons behind that, but it has translated into these live sessions also being a little bit slow. The long form content is definitely not performing at the level that I've seen before. So I just want to constantly keep up the conversation with the community. Like I am constantly considering moving to more of a live and just short strategy because the long form content takes a long time and it's barely being watched. So always love your comments and feedback on that, and whether I should continue to do long form content and whether you're actually consuming it. And obviously, that doesn't have to be shared now. That can be shared in the YouTube comments or the community, but it's just something I always want to talk about with the audience. I had a hiring manager keep me an extra 20 minutes for an interview. The next day, I was told I didn't get the job. And of course, there are outliers, right? Like I'm rarely going to spend more time with somebody I'm not going to hire. But here's the thing. They probably spent an extra 20 minutes with you because they were trying to decide. So even though they didn't move forward, they did like you, and they wanted to spend that extra time to gauge whether or not you were the right fit. So I wouldn't take it all as a negative. It was extra time to make the determination that maybe somebody else was just a strongly a little bit more strongly or closer aligned with the role, but they liked you. Again, we will run from the hills for people who we know 100% we're not going to hire. So that was not the scenario. They were trying to uncover more data. It's my best guess. Just to clarify, you mean listing significant clients the same way I do for full-time roles? Yeah. Yeah. So again, like, did you like legally create like an LLC or like anything to like set yourself up as this contractor? Maybe, maybe not, right? But it doesn't mean you can't call it something. You just call it Your Name Consulting or Your Name / marketing consulting or whatever it is. And then you list out the companies under this one umbrella. Like, you don't have to list out each individual one. You could say, all right, I'm going to make it up. So like Google project, worked with Google team to do blah, 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 blah. Meta project, did X, Y, and Z with Meta. And it's like, you're just listing out the projects. You can put the dates around those projects as well. But it looks like, it just looks more cohesive and less rigid. And there are no rules. If it was true freelance, then yeah, you can bucket it that way. And that totally would be acceptable to me. Yeah, again, I don't, I would just say that like, I'm going to spend time with you to uncover. So it may not be the perfect fit, but if you're definitely not a fit, I'm not going to spend that time. But if I'm still trying to unpack it, I would spend that time. Thank you so much for the positive feedback. I appreciate it. With AI surging, do you think it would be good? Think it would be good or even necessary at this point for the government to get involved in protecting jobs? The government can't protect the jobs. Look, I think, we haven't gotten into the gloom and doom of AI, and it's actually kind of nice to not be talking about it or not getting too much into the gloom and doom of it. But like, we're already too far. We're already too far into it. We can't pull back now. And by the way, the greed will not allow people to pull back. There's just way, way too much greed. And that greed will really negatively impact our lives. Look, I think we'd all be better off if AI just disappeared. Right? Like, the internet was great. We were doing okay with the internet. Like, I use AI every day. My tool is built on top of AI, but there's just no way that people are going to abandon it, and the government can't save the jobs because companies are for profit, and I'm just not going to pay an employee $100,000 USD when AI will do it for, whatever the usage costs are, which is, $100 a year or $200 a year. Like, it just won't happen. So, it is a potential future state where we have UBI, universal basic income, and the government supports us financially because AI has streamlined things so much. I think that's the more likely scenario. Can you review CFAS assumptions again? What is their purpose? And what are your top choices? So there are absolutely definitely no top choices when it comes to assumptions because they're so closely related to the question and the role you're interviewing for. Let me give you the perfect example. Like, let's imagine I'm going, one of the role I probably coach for, it's in my top 2 as an account strategist role at Google. So it's a Google Ads sales role, right? And so a lot of times in the hypotheticals, they'll say, well, let's assume it's a retailer who wants to grow their business. It's like, what does that mean? A retailer is so broad in today's landscape, right? And want to grow their business. What the heck does that mean? Let's imagine it's a brick and mortar and online flip-flop retailer who's specifically looking to grow their revenue by 30% by using YouTube midstream ads to grow their business over the next 3 months. Now, that person's probably interviewing for, again, an account strategist role where their interviewer knows what midstream YouTube ads look like. Now they're connected here. So when you're solving, they're actually picturing the experience of working with a client, seeing that mid-roll YouTube ad. Otherwise, it's a retailer trying to solve their challenge, and it's like, I can't picture it. If we can't picture it, we are forgotten. You'll remember flip-flop retailer, but you won't remember retailer. It's so specific. And people are like, whoa, that's really risky. Well, maybe a little bit, but the bigger risk is being forgotten, and you will be forgotten if you do not make specific assumptions. Who was the client? What was the product type? What was the timeline? And all those need to create strong visuals. The silly analogy I always use is, if we talk about what I did last night, let's say, well, I ate dinner while watching sports. What did I just say? You already forgot it, right? But if I said, oh, I was watching the Chargers Raiders NFL game while eating fajitas. It's like, well, at least you can picture the football and the fajitas. You might hate football, you might not eat fajitas, but you can picture it. And so at least you're in the journey with me. Maybe you see me sitting at a table, sitting at a couch, but dinner and sports, it's like, oh, like you have no visual connectivity. So assumptions are all about getting your audience visually connected. And then we bring in the role specificity. So I just brought in those components for a Google Ads strategist. For Meta, maybe it's like, we're going after, I can't remember the role you said, but you're going to bring in role relevant details in those assumptions. They start picturing you in the role. They start picturing you solving for that specific challenge in the role. And so it's so important. Assumptions are kind of the missing piece of the puzzle. And when I first built the CFAS method, the A was missing. And I realized, like, I couldn't remember any of my clients' answers. But the silly one I always bring up, I know I'm getting long-winded. Silly one I always bring up is I was interviewing a product manager, and we did some sort of question, and he brought up snickerdoodles as a cookie. I don't know if you've ever heard of snickerdoodles. It's a cookie that my wife has made a few times in our lives, and I still remember snickerdoodle. But if this product manager had just said like chocolate chip cookie, or maybe not even chocolate chip cookie, but cookie, something really basic, I would have never remembered it. And that specific cookie example still sits with me. That was at least 3 or 4 years ago. So specificity makes it memorable. Memorable makes you more likable, and being more likable makes you more hireable. I know that was long-winded, but I hope it helps. Yeah, definitely. And I sincerely appreciate you and showing up every week. It's like your engagement is amazing, and these sessions would be shorter without you. So I appreciate you. Sole proprietor. I currently list freelance biz name and name a few clients and how I help them. But it's just a 5-year block. Yeah, I think that I don't understand. It's just a 5-year block. That's okay. And remember, like, part of the story is COVID hit, and I really decided that I wanted to pivot and freelance for A, B, and C reasons. And I'm really excited to be in front of this opportunity because it's going to allow me to take all those skills I learned by working at very unique clients and bring them all together for this role, which really has a focus on A, B, and C. So we can look at it with a negative lens, or we can look at it with a positive lens. But if you bucket it all together, it looks more cohesive. Again, that's just my 2 cents. Okay. Again, I don't think it's grim. What is the TTT method for common questions? CTT? So sorry. C as in cow, and sometimes it's just enunciation on my end. So CTT is connectivity. So for common questions, anything that's not directly correlated and connected to the role is a waste of time. Okay. So you got to be super connected. Then the first T is 3. So I want you to be connected by focusing in on 3 specific concepts. Why? Because the rule of 3 is very, very powerful. Once we get to 4 concepts, humans almost always will forget one of those concepts. So we focus in on 3. And then the last T is timing. And the reason why I brought in the timing component there is because the 1 minute or less is critical. The 3, 4, 5 minute tell me about yourself answers are brutal. They ruin the interviewer's agenda and are so bad from a first impression standpoint. Candidates have already lost the interview. So connectivity, 3, and timing. That's the CTT. Let me know if you have more questions. It's true. AI has made some freelancing something. Okay. Again, I'm starting to get a little bit, Lisa, just like I'm not understanding. I think I'm a little bit confused I'm a little confused. So I just want to make sure I'm being as helpful as possible. Like, does the bucketing make sense? Do you see that as a good strategic path? And of course, anybody who's here to disagree with me, they're just my opinions. With the job market as is, your channel and app should be in high demand. So many people are looking for work right now. It's true. You know, and I would say, you know, like I try to be as transparent on this channel as possible. Like, I thought at this point in the app journey, it would be killing. It's not. I'm not hitting the level of usage that I want to hit. And here's the thing. Like, again, I'm very transparent and honest with this audience. I built the tool based on chunking. What is chunking? It's providing bite-sized feedback. Why did I build the tool that way? Because all the data science and cognitive psychology tells us that our brain works better when we learn in chunking, that we don't do well when people throw a ton of stuff at us. And every single one of my app competitors, it's just layered on GPT or Claude, and it's just spitting back a ton of feedback. You don't even need the tool. You can just go to GPT or Claude. So just understand that chunking is so valuable. Fix just this piece, just this sentence, because fixing that one sentence only takes maybe 3 to 5 minutes, but it has amazing impact on your interview results. Then fix the next 2 sentences. Go back, really work on that piece and fix that. Because even if you think about like STAR method, CFAS, if you can fix just one component, let's go back to Daphne, you fix just assumptions. Wow, if you create strong visuals that have great role connectivity and then solve for those items, you have instantly had a huge impact on how you answer hypothetical questions. So just understand, when you're doing any learning, if everything's being thrown at you, you're not going to learn well, because that's not how our brains work. We learn well in chunking. And so I want to be killing it. Anybody who's here, please socialize the app. It is free, right? Like, it's free to join, free to get on there. And obviously I'm going to do a promo code at the end to make sure that I do throw out a promo to this audience today. And I'll do that right after we hop off the live. But it's built with a lot of knowledge, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. So I hope that it does take off in the way that I initially anticipated. Make very good snickerdoodles, if I do say so myself. Amazing. Recipe makes a lot, so great for sharing. Awesome. Yeah, and again, like, so now we're gonna we're just like in our minds now. Again, I don't know if you know what a snickerdoodle is, and I could not tell you the ingredients because baking and cooking is probably not at the top of my list of skills, right? But like, it's engaging. Now we're thinking about snickerdoodles as we're walking around in our flip-flops, and all of a sudden you're going to be like 3 hours from now, and you're like, flip-flops are going to pop in your mind, or snickerdoodles are going to pop in your mind. You're going to be like, why is that? Well, because it was so specific, it was memorable. But if it was just retail, or it was just a bakery item, it's like, there's just no connection. It's gone. And so it does have a really, really big impact. You are welcome. It makes sense. I was responding to what you said about, AI for things. Yeah. Sorry about that. I lost my connectivity. Yes. I mean, I think I'm doing everything in my business now with the expectation that I'll be replaced. And I have a timeline. I think I'll be replaced in the next couple of years. So I'm working on that timeline to do everything I can to be done in 2 years. That's where I feel like it's headed, and I'm working around it, and I feel very fortunate. I'm a little bit older, and in 2 years, if everything works out the way I want it to work out, I could be retired and done. And like, I've worked really hard over the last 7 years, and obviously I've worked very hard over my career to get there, but I could be in a very fortunate place. And again, there's just a lot of unknowns. But when I have conversations with people about AI and replacing them, we need to remove what currently exists and think about what's possible. And when we start to think about what's possible, we understand that we all are replaceable, and that's okay, as long as we're preparing for it and we're not avoiding that could be a factual item. I think if more people were aware of your app and or your channel, it would be surging. Perhaps sponsor a job marketing event or flyers on campuses. Your wisdom is golden. Thank you for that. I mean, I am doing my best, and well, no, I'm not doing my best. We can always do better, right? And like, I'm extremely self-critical on my days, my hours. Like, I'm pretty tough on myself, and I'm my own boss, so I think I can be pretty critical of myself. And all I ask of you in the community is socialize it, socialize the app, socialize the content. My following is, I don't know. I think for the career space, it's a decent size, and I want to continue to, you, the community, we're here now, and I appreciate you, and you're what keeps me going. And we show up for these sessions, and it is different. During COVID, these sessions would sometimes hit 200 attendees per session. We're not at 200 attendees, right? Like, I couldn't get to all the questions. Sometimes they would go, I was looking back, I had one that was almost 3 hours, right? Just on and on and on. And so it's different now. But the job market's different. We all know it. We all feel it, right? There are less jobs. And I think it's a little bit less, or maybe a lot less than what's being reported. If there were all these jobs, then people wouldn't be struggling to find them. So, again, all we can do is we can listen and take guidance from where we think it's valuable, and then we apply it, and we really push the needle as much as we can. And thank you so much for the positive feedback. I appreciate it. Jeff, how could you make the free trial more? It'd be so invaluable for people. How could you market the free trial more? And market it quite a bit. And again, it's like, part of it too is like not shoving it down people's throats, right? To say like, here's the free trial, but it's like, look, it's free. Here's the reality. People don't want to practice their interview skills. And I get it. It's terrible. But when the light bulb moments go off and you like have these little wins, it's where it gets really beautiful. And you're like, okay, this isn't just about interviewing. This is about my general communication skills. This is how I communicate and connect with others. And that's why I love, one of my favorite things to talk about is the situation and task, because I have these conversations with people and I'm so overloaded with information that's not relevant to me, that I don't understand. It's above my head. It's adjacent. It's over here. It's over here. And it's like, ooh, if we could just set the simple context in conversations to say, Sue, here's what I'm working on, and here are my very specific challenges, A, B, and C, and here's where I think you can help me. Imagine that conversation in the workplace, whereas people just spew all sorts of stuff. So what learning really strong interview skills does is it teaches us stronger communication skills as well. So that's a piece that I love. I think part of it is just the rolling attendance. Not rolling attendance, just views. Like, you see my channel, but really, like, if I'm, and I'm going to be transparent at the end of this year, I think I've shown this before, but I show the trends. I mean, of all my YouTube views and subscribers, it's really like 1 year was almost half of everything. Not half of everything, but maybe it was like 40% was 1 year. And then the other 6 years, we're trying to get that other 60%. So obviously the business was insane during those COVID years, like just crazy. Like, I can't even explain to this audience, fully booked, wait list, like every YouTube video popped. And obviously it's a little different now, but I appreciate this community trying to problem solve for me. And here's the other strong piece of advice I have for everybody. And I was having this conversation with somebody yesterday. All feedback is helpful. Everybody's lens is unique and helpful. And whether you apply that feedback or not, they're seeing it from that way. So if they're seeing it from that way, there's chances that other people are seeing it that way too. So like any and all feedback is welcome. And I want it. I want to improve how I communicate, how I show up, how the app looks, how the coaching looks, how the course looks, all that stuff, all that feedback is so, so valuable. Oh, no, Lisa, that was all me. My bad. As you gain more people, they gravitate to paid content. Yeah, and I think, again, like the story of any content creator, and I didn't know how to sell or market. I just knew how to I didn't even know how to create content. Go watch any of my content. We all know it's not highly produced, right? But 99.9% of people who engage with me or my content get it for free, and that's beautiful. And the 0.1 pays me, and I make a living off that. So it's also really nice, right? So yeah, and I think that some people ultimately they see it and they're like, okay, I need to get coaching with Jeff, or I need to use the app, and it's a very small investment. Whatever product or service of mine or anybody else's you choose, that investment in your career, it's priceless. It will create massive value. So, yeah. Thank you so much, Daphne. I appreciate it. If I fail an interview for a contract role, would I be marked down for full-time positions? No. No. With all like the big companies that outsource to like a Randstad, especially in the US, that's not in the system. The interviews aren't being calculated in the system the way a full-time interview would be. So no, it doesn't impact it at all. Marked or blacklisted for a year. I have an interview with Intuit, but it's part-time, which wouldn't work for me. I'm planning to use it for practice, but want to be sure. Here's the challenge with this. And I kind of push back on like the using interviews for practice, because if you don't want the job, I know you don't want the job. It shows up in your body language, your pitch, your tone. When we want something, we sound different. And so like when people are like, oh, I'm just doing that for interview practice, it's like, oh, well, you're not going to show up the same way you would show up if you really wanted it, right? So just my feedback, but you will not get blackballed if you do that, if you go through that process. Yeah, there was a lot of money around during COVID. It's a little tighter these days. Thanks for your hard work. Even as AI grows, the human insight and guidance for sharing are irreplaceable. Yeah, and remember, like we can use AI to optimize, but I think even like as we look at the interview process, I think we're going to get agentic. I have a persona. Sue Smith, a hiring manager, has a persona. Those personas connect and they say, wow, there's really strong alignment in not just the job description and experience, but like personality type and the way they look at the world and all these things, where we can streamline and actually make the interview process better, but we still have to have that human connection as long as AI doesn't replace all the jobs. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. If any additional questions come in while I'm doing this roll through, please let me know. Type them in and I'll answer them. But let's go into the wrap up. So I got asked for So I hit my mic. Not the best time to hit the mic. I think we should be okay. So I'm going to do a promo code. I'll have that out in the next like 10 minutes. I'll put it in the YouTube description if you want to get a promo off the app. I'm still doing one-on-one interview coaching, one-on-one negotiation coaching, and one-on-one career strategy sessions. That's really resume and LinkedIn based, a little bit of networking. Definitely do coaching packages. There's good value there. And I still have my interview mastery course, which now was updated almost a year ago to add AI to all the modules to make it more relevant and easier and quicker to get through. I go live 9 a.m. Pacific every Tuesday, new original long form content every Monday, and I will be completely off next week and then back the following week. Let me just go in and answer any of these last minute comments and then I'll hop off. I know, I can't stop hitting this mic. Now it's doing something funky. It lights up so I can kind of tell when it's working. And then StreamYard, my third party, always tells me like, oh, you hit the mic again, Jeff, you know, so. Thank you, Daphne. Thanks for being here. Thank you, everybody, so much for the engagement. Sincerely appreciated. Have a fantastic day, and I will be back in a couple weeks. Thanks.